no furring you. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this subject?
Art criminal.
I'm not sure how this relates to thought crime exactly, but I think that the thing that always strikes me about that quote, freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 makes 4, is that something that I think runs through a lot of his work, is that it's the freedom to look at what one is taught and what one believes and examine it and accept it and then hold on to that because you know that you've already looked at it. So it's almost a kind of Cartesian thing of breaking everything right down and then building it back up again. And I think that's maybe what he does, and that's what O'Brien does to Winston. He removes that ability. He removes that capacity to do that.
Do you think that this is an instance of cynicism on Orwell's part, that it is possible to do that? Because, as Margie was saying, this is the kind of, we're in the realms of the impossible. And this is the great dream of ideologues and dictators and totalitarian regimes and religions. Not that I'm anti-religion. It's actually to get inside people's thoughts and take possession of them. It is actually, but this is the great sort of unknown, and this is the problem. This is where it all flounders. And yet, nonetheless, you've got to keep that that battle continues to be fought.
But I think that's exactly right, that it is a continuous battle. I think that the thing that I most respect, even though it's probably most frustrating about Orwell, is how honest he is. He never lets himself get away with anything. I think he would probably be the first, I don't want to sound too much like a hero worshipper, but he would probably be the first to admit that he has these hypocrisies and these contradictions in himself. And that in several of his essays that I've read, I'm not an expert at all, but just the things that I remember, he has talked about how you're never going to win, you just have to keep fighting. And that, I suppose, is the most tragic aspect of the end of 1984, is he just gives up and accepts it.
You're never going to win, and you're never going to win what?
You're never going to win the battle against hypocrisy, you're never going to be able to eradicate. I mean, it's this contradiction that, we have a series of thoughts and we can know against another standard that we have. Orwell wants to be liberal, but he has, but then he disagrees with other people, and that in itself is illiberal. So if he eradicates those thoughts, he's marking that as thought crime. I mean, you're never going to get away from these kind of paradoxes, but you have to keep trying.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just checking that the pathway to the exit's clear before I speak. I'm a senior forensic psychiatrist, and sometimes my work involves me making judgments about whether or not to be instrumental in detaining people who have very disturbing and difficult thoughts. And one of the things that causes me concern is that I think your colleague at the end of the panel mentioned something about legality and about things being lawful. But we also have to think about whether they're ethical. You may or may not be aware that the government passed legislation in November last year cutting the threshold for the description of mental disorder which could result in detention to the thinnest wafer. Anything from premenstrual tension to schizophrenia can now entitle you to be incarcerated in hospital without limit of time under other very modest circumstances. And the challenge to, I hope, liberal and progressive people like myself is not the law, it's the ethics that underpin the law. And these changes, ladies and gentlemen, I think are very insidious. Today, does anyone know that today is Armed Forces Day, when we're supposed to celebrate our country's armed forces?
Yeah,
very subtle.
was Victims of Torture Day.
Indeed. And very subtle pressures are put upon one to think and believe in certain ways. And I think that there's a big role for ethical challenge, and that's why I'm sitting here with my family engaging in this debate today.
No, I think that's a very good point. I think that ethics are exactly, maybe what are how we negotiate with thoughts and define what's in and what's out. because I think in some ways, otherwise, in terms of the individual, the consciousness is the final frontier. In space, it is actually, because who knows what's going on inside someone's head, and how do you get hold of that? And actually, but it's also the way that ethical apparatus has to be internalised is also critical to this argument. So it's not just how the government bears down on the individual, but how the individual relates and clicks with the external world.
To that extent, I think that this meeting, this performance and this discussion is absolutely critical in the maintenance of that ethical stream.
Okay.